Hello, new viewers, and welcome back, viewers who have been watching me for a while. Today, we're gonna do 2 chicken recipes. We're sticking with Italian-American classics, and both of these dishes, you would think, come from Italy, but really they were invented right here in good old America from Italian immigrants. We're gonna make chicken piccata, and we're gonna make chicken scarpariello. So stay tuned, and we'll go through the recipes together. Our first recipe we're going to make today is chicken piccata. It is actually the most requested dish when I work for people for me to make. So I guess my recipe is pretty good. I'd like to share it with you, so let's get started. So for our chicken piccata dish, of course we need to start with chicken. I've got some thin sliced chicken here. We're going to bread it in flour, but the first thing we want to do is season that flour. So I have some garlic powder. I have some salt. I have some pepper, and this is not traditional, but I like to add a little bit of paprika. It adds a little more color to your pan sauce and just gives it a little bit of a smoky flavor. So let's whisk that together. I've got my cast iron pan, which you know is my favorite, cooking with cast iron, on the stovetop getting warm. All right, now that we've got that seasoned, let's get our oil in our pan. And we're just gonna make sure that this is coated well. Then we're gonna bread our chicken and get a nice golden crust. And you know my trick too to getting a golden crust is putting some butter in it. So let's put a little bit of butter in there too, besides just the olive oil. And when that sizzle means our oil is hot, which is great. So this is an Italian-American classic. We believe that it got started by Italian immigrants here in the United States around the 1930s. Believe it or not, this dish started with veal because at the time, veal was less expensive than chicken. Can you believe that? So that's where this dish came from. If we're looking for origins of the flavor, this is a kind of a piquant. It's got a tart flavor with lemon juice and capers, butter and garlic. So we think that it would have come more from the southern region of France, probably in Sicily. All right, that's nice and hot. Let's get our chicken floured. And this is just gonna give it a nice golden color. We'll get those in the pan. And these are thin slices, so we're really just trying to get that goldenness on them and not cook them all the way through, because we're going to put them back in the pan sauce and let them finish in the sauce so they pick up all that beautiful lemon flavor. That's just going to take a minute. We'll finish that off, take them out of the pan, and we'll get to making our sauce. All right, you can see we've got a beautiful golden color on our chicken. And again, we don't want to overcook this, so let's take it out of the pan. And because there was flour on the chicken, we've got some nice brown bits and we've got some browning from the butter. So this is going to be a beautiful golden sauce when we get done. So the first thing we want to do is take lemon juice and white wine, and we're going to deglaze the pan. We'll put that in. And then you want to kind of get those brown bits up off the bottom. That's really going to add flavor. You do want to reduce this by half, so let some of that alcohol and that lemon cook out, because you don't want this to be sour. You just want to have that tartness to the sauce. And then we're going to add chicken stock. That's how simple this sauce is. Now, I'm gonna let this simmer for a little bit. While that's simmering, I'm gonna make a slurry. So a slurry is usually, could be flour, it could be cornstarch with a cold liquid. So the reason that you get clumps in a gravy or in a sauce is if you combine a hot liquid with flour or cornstarch. So we don't wanna do that. I like to use the same seasoning that I used to bread the chicken in my slurry. But you don't want to use the same flour right off that plate because we had raw chicken touch it. So for safety reasons, we're not going to use this. we have a little bit of flour. We are gonna add those same spices to it. So let's add the garlic powder, some pepper, that paprika, and a little bit of salt. And we're gonna take some chicken stock, and we're gonna stir this and kind of make a thick, almost like a milkshakey kind of concoction. And this is called a slurry. And this will thicken our gravy for us. So once this is combined, we want to bring it up to a little bit more of a boil, like your protein shake in the morning. Although I don't know that I'd want to drink this by itself. Okay, and then we're gonna stir this in a little bit at a time until you get the thickness that you want in your sauce. Okay, that might actually be enough. That sauce is thickened nicely. Now we want to add our finishing flavors, so capers. And I do use a little bit of the juice from the caper bottle because you get that brininess. Oh, look at how beautiful and thick that sauce has become. Isn't that gorgeous? It's a beautiful pan sauce. Okay, we'll put our chicken back in and just let that simmer for a few minutes. And we are done with our chicken piccata. One more thing I want to share with you before we plate this wonderful chicken piccata is I'm going to add just a tablespoon of butter to this. Not that that gravy sauce isn't already rich, but it's just going to add a velvety texture to that. So since the sauce is hot, that's going to melt right in. Give it a little stir. Because doesn't butter make everything better? All right. Now you can serve this with spaghetti, linguine. You can serve it with mashed potatoes. You could serve it over polenta. You could put egg noodles. Lots of different ways you can serve this, or to keep it healthier, I would serve it by itself with the gravy, and maybe a nice side of sauteed broccoli would be beautiful, or some lovely roasted asparagus. So we've got our chicken. Gorgeous. That sauce, I could just drink it. Speaking of drinks, I haven't had wine yet today. What am I thinking? All right, let's get some of that gravy on there. And then to top it off, I would like to sprinkle a little bit of parsley on it, add some beautiful color. You certainly could garnish with some parsley. Whenever you garnish a dish, make sure that you're using ingredients that are the same flavors that are in the dish, but also that are edible. You never want to put anything on the plate that people can't eat. Not that they're going to eat it. I've never seen somebody pick up a sprig of parsley and put it in their mouth, but you still want to make sure everything's edible on the plate. And then just to make it a little bit prettier, because you know I like being fancy, let's take a lemon wedge. I just slit it halfway through. We'll bend it, put it right on top, and that would be a beautiful, simple dish you could make, create a nice, elegant Italian dinner. Our second dish is a little bit more spicy. It's a sweet and spicy sausage, pepper, and onion with braised chicken dish called chicken scarpariello. Isn't that fun to say? I just love it. So we are gonna start by cooking off our hot Italian sausage. We're gonna brown some chicken, and everything else gets finished in the pan. This one's a little bit different than our first recipe. It's gonna take a little bit longer because we're using bone-in chicken, and this one we're gonna finish in the oven. All right, the first step in this dish is we're gonna cook our sausage. Hot cast iron pan, got that warm before I put the oil in, and we're putting oil in. There's gonna be fat in the sausage, but we wanna make sure we have enough in here just so they don't stick. I've got it on high, and I'll tell you why. We're gonna actually wanna get this brown on the outside, but then I'm gonna turn the heat down. Have you ever put sausage in a pan and it's on high, and then one side gets burned, but it's not cooked all the way through? So a trick to that is once we get this in the pan started, there we go. So it's on high right now. We're gonna kind of turn them so they get evenly brown on all sides, and then I'm gonna turn the pan down. We're gonna cover it on low heat, which is gonna help it to cook through the center without burning the outside. Once those are done, we're gonna take them out. We will set them aside and we'll brown our chicken. Okay, we've got beautifully browned, cooked sausage. We're gonna take those out of the pan. Let's take our chicken thighs. I wanna use the same pot for this. We've got some great flavor from that sausage being in there, so if we brown our chicken in the same pan, we'll pick up some flavor from the sausage. But I do wanna make sure that we've seasoned these with salt and pepper. You do wanna season every layer. And I'm gonna put a little bit more oil in my pan just to make sure we're well coated. And it's smoking a little bit, so let's turn that down and get our chicken thighs in. Skin side down first. And we're gonna let that sit and get a golden crust on it before we flip it over. Well, the interesting thing about this particular dish, a lot of the dishes we've been cooking this season are Italian American, which means you find them here in America, but not necessarily on menus in restaurants in Italy. So this is one of those dishes. And actually this one really has a lot of different stories that go along with it. Scarpariello actually means shoemaker. So there's a theory that this dish came from Sicily, Calabrian region, and that maybe this dish was conceived from poor people who were shoemakers and they were able to afford to make this dish. I'm not sure if that's true. There's just all sorts of myths out there. But there was a restaurant here in New York City that made this dish kind of famous and popular. And now it's one of an Italian-American classic. All right, now that we've got our chicken browned, let's remove that from the pan. That beautiful color. We'll turn the heat down just a little bit and let's make our pan sauce. I'm going to start to add bell peppers, red and green, and onion. And then we'll let that cook a little bit. Oh, I love the smell of peppers and onions. And then we're gonna add some garlic. I'm adding the garlic in after the peppers and onions. It's gonna help keep it from burning. We don't want any bitterness in this dish. We really just wanna get that sweet and spicy flavor. Okay, I'm going to add some white wine because you know I love to cook with wine. Let that sizzle for a minute. When you cook with wine, you want to make sure that you're using a wine that you actually would drink. You want a good wine that has good flavor to it. And think about the kind of wine you're using as well. So for this dish, I would use something more tart like a Pinot Grigio or a Sauvignon Blanc, not necessarily a Chardonnay. If you're doing like a butter sauce or something like that with white wine, I would tend to go with like a Chardonnay, something like that. So think about that when you're cooking with wine, that it does impart flavor into your dish, so you want to pair the flavors of the wine with the flavor you're trying to accomplish in your sauce. All right, let's put a little bit of chicken stock in here. And then I've got some hot cherry peppers. So we've got the sweet bell peppers, the hot cherry peppers, and then I'm gonna throw some oregano in here to season it. We're gonna let that cook for just a minute. We'll add our meat back in, and then this is gonna go in the oven. So we've got our pan sauce on the stove on a low simmer. I don't want it too high because I don't want that liquid to cook off. That liquid is gonna help finish cooking our chicken so it braises. So I do wanna cut our sausage though into some bite-sized pieces because it's just gonna make it easier to eat. And we'll do that before we throw it back into the pan. Perfect, let's get that finished and in the oven. Okay, We've got our peppers, onions, garlic. We're gonna add our sausage in. Let's put our chicken thighs in. And because these are bone-in, it takes a little bit longer for these to cook. So you could finish them on the pan, but it's gonna be easier to finish them in the oven. Make sure that you've got enough liquid in your pan that it doesn't dry out. It will evaporate a little bit as it cooks the chicken, but you still wanna have that juiciness. I'm also gonna throw in, we seasoned with oregano, but I love to put fresh herbs in this. I just feel like it creates a little bit of a different flavor. So that's ready to go in the oven, 25 minutes, and our chicken scarpariello will be ready. Our chicken scarpariello is ready. It's been in the oven for 25 minutes, so we're ready to plate it. And I just love saying that, scarpariello. Such a fun name. Oh my gosh, if you could smell these peppers, smells so good. So we've got a sweet and spicy chicken and sausage dish. Beautiful colors. Let's take a chicken thigh. Get a lot of those peppers and that color and the sausage around it. I'm ready to eat. And I am ready to have that with some red wine. You could have this with white wine. We cooked with it. You can drink it with red wine. I think because you've got some spiciness to this dish, a nice Chianti would go wonderful with our chicken scarpariello. We focused on 2 chicken dishes today, both simple to make but have a lot of vibrant flavor to them. We made chicken piccata, we made chicken scarpariello. You can find those recipes at my website, jenniferbasil.com. Follow me on social media, and I have a new TikTok channel at Getting Saucy TV. Hope to see you there.